Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 19 today for the US Grand Prix in Season 1. If you guys did miss the previous episode and the Japanese Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was quite a jam-packed episode. A lot of stuff happened. We had a driver retirement from Formula 1 announced in that video. We had the regulation change announcement, which we know now is the chassis and the durability. And of course that driver retirement, if you watch that episode, you'll know is no surprise really if you look at the older drivers on the grid, Fernando Alonso. But in that same episode we had a wacky grid with 13 grid penalties, and it meant that Fernando Alonso, of all people, ended up winning that race. What a race that was, wet to dry as well. And for us, it was a tough one to swallow, because after all season of us doing very well to keep McLaren at bay, a bit of a mistake in terms of going a bit too aggressive with the switch over to dries. Also, I just think, honestly, the overwhelming pace of the cars around us, to be honest, in the way that we lost out to 9th place in the end and only picked up 1 point in that race. But Lando finished quite high in the McLaren, and so now McLaren are ahead of us by 5 points in the Constructors' Championship, and we've got only 4 races to go. Obviously, we are going to have an upgrade coming in on the front aero, which was the one that failed, rear aero, whatever the case. We're getting a major aero upgrade, and we now know we can spend R&D to our heart's content, knowing we've adjusted for the regulation change. So with that, there's maybe a chance we can have a good performing car to score some good points at the end to try and re-overtake them, but we're going to have to play this very clever in the races and try and maximize everything we can to try and beat McLaren for P7, and we're doing all of this for just P7, but in the grand scheme of things it could help us out. Every position in the Constructors helps with prize money, and next season, if we are aiming high for the top of the midfield, McLaren will still be a team we're fighting really, because I think next season for sure McLaren will be fighting for P4 in the Constructors minimum. You know, if you look at where the car performance is, where Alpine are, you know, the only reason they're there fighting for P7 is because of how slow they started the entire career season. In terms of speaking about money and upgrades, we are going to go ahead and purchase a level 2 on the aero department as well. So we've upgraded the build time of the aero facility. That will match the build time upgrade that we've got on the chassis. And now, from now to the end of the season, I'll be saving money to give us the best spread and choice and openness of who we might want to sign as a teammate for Season 2. In terms of the R&D chart then, that delayed upgrade, that major upgrade has now come in, and so we're no longer just at the bottom of the chart. We're now again ahead of AlphaTauri and Williams on paper, pretty much just overlapping Aston Martin, and you can see Alpine now with that updated graph kind of plateauing a bit into USA. You can really now see how close Alpine are to Red Bull. So next season, I said it jokingly last episode, it's a bit of a shame Alonso's retired at the time where into next season they literally could be fighting Red Bull and other teams for podiums consistently, because obviously that's where Red Bull are fighting for, and that if Alpine are there, then why shouldn't they? We carry on earning as much R&D as we can to, you know, hopefully one day be at that point and that level, and we're going to now sink our teeth into upgrades on the aero and the engine side of things. So we're going to go ahead and buy a rear downforce upgrade. The front upgrade, I don't know about you guys, I've not got a single discount on front downforce, which has been massively frustrating, but it means we have to wait quite a bit to upgrade that part of the car. But we'll hold tight. I think also we should delve into some upgrades on the engine side of things, just because I've got quite a few discounts on that department. And obviously, as we've discussed, because those two departments aren't getting reset, we can upgrade them, and we know they're going to be safe for next year. So we're getting there. We're going to chip away and hopefully get one more step on the downforce on rear and front when we can afford it, and then also do some more upgrades in the engine power, the ERS and fuel for sure, and we hopefully will be in a really good spot for next season. But this season continues. We've got 4 rounds to go. It's kind of flown by, guys. I'm getting quite emotional, you know. One season, the first season's always, you know, the most topsy-turvy of learning the new game, the handling. You guys are seeing everything fresh for the first time. We're experiencing things fresh for the first time, and it's flown by really. But we've had I think this has been one of my most enjoyable season 1s on an F1 game for a while. I think a combination of how close the grid has been, how erratic the AI have been in like a kind of good but also, you know, kind of bad way. You know, I don't know, it's weird. You know, there are obviously so many issues with this game, quite a few bugs and glitches, but overall the AI, the way they've been, how punchy they've been, our performances, the races we've had, it's all come together to still make it a really enjoyable Season 1. The first part of qualifying well underway then, as we've been talking about that, and we're on our second flying lap. I'm using Pierre Gasly as a bit of a tow down the straight to gain some time, and into the final corner, really closing up and still actually using him as a bit of a yardstick of where to brake, actually, more so, because the sun is a bit of a madness around here, around Kota. They need to fix that a little bit, because I don't think it's that crazy in real life, or that blinding. Well, maybe it is. I can't remember really from last year, but it is kind of mad. It's very hard to spot your braking points. I was using Gasly as a kind of yardstick, and that helped because both myself and Drogovic are into Q2. So what a difference makes from one episode to the next. You know, worst car on the grid on paper. Now we're ahead by 2, and we've got some good performances. And again, we use Bottas as a yardstick, and we actually overtake him in the last corner there. That was very strange. I caught him up over the course of my first flying app in Q2. And overtook him into the final corner. So actually that held us up a little bit, so we might gain more time in the last couple of corners. Drogovic up in P12. It's going to be down to P13, so he might be knocked out of Q2. Can we do anything to get into the top 10 shootout? Across the line, 6/10 gain, and we just about scrape through into the top 10 shootout. So what a difference one race makes. Drogovic P14, myself P10, helped out a little bit by clearly some cars not performing to where they should be, because, you know, we've got a McLaren down there of Ricciardo who's knocked out, Schumacher and both Hasses are down the order where they should clearly be up here at their home race, if you look at the R&D chart, and even the Alfa Romeo, Bottas, I feel, should have been really getting us on the line into Q3, so we've been helped out a little bit by a few people not getting their laps in and not doing the business when they need to, and that follows suit into Q3 because Leclerc's down the order. They've all set their first flying lap. I haven't, because I only have one set to use, and last race's team of the day, Alpine, both Alonso and Ocon are P8 and 9. They've had a horrendous first lap in the top 10 shootout, so we maybe got half a chance to do quite well here in the last part of qualifying. We've only got one lap to do it though, so I have no inkling of how on earth this lap is going for us versus everyone else, with no delta time on the top right there. But finally Alonso does put in a better lap time, but Leclerc hasn't. Leclerc's had a howler. He's still in P8 then in the Ferrari. So if he's gone slow, do we have a chance to jump up the order? What is this going to be? Across the line for us. It's been a great time in the USA on a Saturday. P8 for us. We do out-qualify Leclerc in the Ferrari, and he's just had a howler because he's so far off his teammate Sainz. Verstappen dominates this quali and gets pole position, so comes back at Leclerc in the biggest fashion ever in statement after last episode where he scored no points. Leclerc scored well to take the lead of the championship. Verstappen needed to set down a marker and come back at him, and he has done with that really dominant pole position. For us, P8 is amazing. What a difference one race makes. But Drogovic is there in P14, not too far off. And late on to the season, grid penalties like they were last episode might play in a factor. Let's go to the grid and see where we actually end up on the grid.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Raikkonen delighted the world by taking the top step of the podium for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us today? We have 10 turns to the left and 10 turns to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and turn 12 at this anti-clockwise track. It's 3.6 miles long, and we should see average lap speeds of around 126 miles per hour. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Russell, the owner-driver, Charles Leclerc, and Bottas. Mick Schumacher, Sainz, they've taken a grid penalty. Ricciardo and Felipe Drugovich. Fernando Alonso, Perez, Lance Stroll and Norris. Tsunoda, Ocon, Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly. Latifi, Albon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel and Guan Yu Zhou. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Can you actually believe it? We are on the second row of the grid for the second time in this F1 My Team career mode on F1 22 because of grid penalties. P4, we can see Verstappen on pole ahead, 2 Mercedes cars. Leclerc, to be fair to him, he's been helped by engine penalties because he's jumped up to P5, but Norris in the single McLaren that was ahead of us, he's now behind us, and Drogovic, if he plays his cards right, he could go and overtake the other McLaren, Ricciardo, because Lando's been pushed down back behind Ricciardo on the grid because of his massive grid penalty. So if Drogovic plays his cards right, and if we play our cards right as a team, we could help each other out, and we could try and orchestrate a double points finish ahead of McLaren. I think that's got to be the game plan today, because I think looking at the next few races, there's a big chance McLaren can, you know, well and truly finish ahead of us, you know, especially in Brazil, where it's a very difficult circuit for me. Mexico, we maybe have a chance as well, because just like Monza, running lower wings, and then Abu Dhabi, you just never know. Don't want to leave it to chance, so we need to score as many points as we can as a team over McLaren. So if I can, I will try and help Drogovic later in this race, but we'll see how the first kind of opening bit of this race goes, because we're on the second row, but a lot of quick cars ahead of us, so it's going to be quite tough out there. USA generally is a very good race for the AI. They're very consistent around here. Let's go then, though, to the last 4 races. We go to 5 red lights here in Austin, Texas. We are underway. It's a slow start for the man on pole, Hamilton. Can he get the lead into turn 1? Yes, he is. He's ahead of Verstappen, but it's a big lock-up from Lewis, and he's gone wide. And now Verstappen and Russell are fighting for the lead. We're up into P3, though. Hamilton's made a mistake. Verstappen's got the elbow out, and he really shoved George off the racing line. We find ourselves in the top 3 now, but Hamilton already has recovered and is still now here in P4. And I think, to be honest, we're not going to fight him too much because he is clearly in the quicker car. Mercedes have been lightning in these races, and I mean, he was quick enough to nearly get Verstappen off the line, and there he is already on the inside, and we're just not going to fight that. I could have used some ERS to fight him on the entry of that corner, but there's no point. He's going to overtake us eventually. You know, it's a very different story if you're trying to think back to the Belgian Grand Prix where I held up everyone for Drogovic. In this case, all I'd be holding up is my own race pace and basically inviting pressure, just like this though, because Carlos Sainz, a bit of desperation for him as he shoots it down the inside. I'm just trying to not make any contact with these top cars, and Leclerc now will finally come through in the last corner onto lap 2 and will look to overtake us. We're not going to deploy any ERS, and we're almost just going to wave him by because, well, I actually frankly don't want to get involved in the title fight. I don't want to be a direct consequence to anything in this AI title fight that we're getting with Leclerc and Verstappen. I know you guys have been finding it quite interesting, so we'll leave it alone and we'll see how the AI do against themselves, amongst themselves. Verstappen leads, Leclerc up into P5. We are, though, best of the rest because Perez is miles off in the traffic. So this is the highest position we can hope for today. So that's why I've not really fought the top cars too much, because from here, now I can fight, now I can hold up people, and I can try and defend this position. I say hold up because, you know, obviously on paper, the Haas and Alfa Romeo should be trying to overtake us, and they probably will. And Schumacher was already lurking there a little bit, and he's applying the pressure with DRS on lap 4, but Drogovic is looking to make moves. He's going to go for the move on Ricciardo, the lead McLaren, because Lando got pushed down the order with engine penalties, but Lando even is overtaking behind as he overtakes Sergio Perez round the outside, but Drogovic is up into P9 ahead of the McLaren he needs to beat. I mean, he's ahead of both McLaren, so this is perfect. This is a double points position at the moment. Me in P6, him in P9, and like I alluded to, I will try and help him overtake the cars ahead if we can. We've got to play this a bit clever and try and maybe back Schumacher and Bottas into him just by going maybe not at full pace, you know, and just trying to keep them in our dirty air. Meanwhile, Leclerc will get a free move maybe on Carlos Sainz. Lap 4 onto 5 this is, and the Ferrari of Sainz makes a mistake. It's a lock-up in the final corner, and that allows Leclerc to go through. But if it wasn't for that, you would have thought actually it would have been an awkward one, because Sainz didn't look like he wanted to give up the fight with his teammate. Meanwhile, lap 6 for us, and Bottas and Schumacher are too busy fighting amongst themselves to fight me. Schumacher down the inside, Bottas locks up and goes straight on, just like Hamilton did on lap 1, and there goes through Felipe Drugovich. He's fighting Gasly though to maintain track position. They've both overtaken Bottas, but Gasly wanted to get the better of Drugovich, but he hasn't. Schumacher in the middle of that sector has a look on the outside of myself. Great view of that from the camera aerial camera shot, and Schumacher will go again to have a look on the outside. We go a bit deep, and he now goes for this switchback move, but can't quite make it. Schumi is all over the back of me on the outside. Drugovich, though, is going to now send one through. Oh, nearly rear ends him, in fact, and we go defensive to the inside. Schumacher goes wide. Schumacher's gone off. He's made a mistake, and now Drugovich is through. We lift off the throttle, and we've let by our teammate now. As soon as I saw Schumacher go wide and make that mistake, and Drugovich was through, even for a split second, up into P7, I thought, okay, this is the moment. This is the best place to do that swap, and I've let off the throttle on purpose to let him by. And the reason for that is I need us to score these 2 points paying positions. I need it. We need it as a team in order to give us the best shot of beating McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. We've got to do what we've got to do, even if it means for the second time this season swallowing my pride and letting Drugovich beat me, even if I know I can probably beat him. And so we're going to do, well, we're going to say to ourselves, multi-21, and we're going to keep car 2 ahead of car 1. Gasly comes in. He was on the soft tyre, so no wonder why he was attacking Drugovich earlier on. So he's on a 2-stop. So Schumacher is the next threat to me, but we're outside his DRS 1.4, and being behind Drugovich, like I've alluded to last episode, he's actually very good in clean air. And look at this, you know, we carry on 2 more laps, lap 10. We're still 1.4 seconds now away from now Ricciardo. So we're actually pulling away from not even Schumacher. We're pulling away from a McLaren who's already overtaken Schumacher. He's in clean air, Ricciardo is, and we're still pulling away from him. Such is the power of being in clean air ourselves in terms of our teammate, and then we're just using him to get DRS. So this is big teamwork at hand to maintain this kind of pace and stay ahead and out the DRS zone of Ricciardo. Eventually, though, the tyre wear will start kicking in for both of us. Drugovich especially more, because now we're closing up, and I'm having to actually lift off and lift and coast a bit to make sure we don't overtake him. And Ricciardo now is well within 1 second and will have DRS now on lap 12. But we've done 6 laps of this, of staying ahead, and up until now we've been over a second clear of Ricciardo in clean air, but now he's within 1 second, so now is the time to maybe try and look to overtake Drugovich. But Ricciardo's going to come at me. He's come at me in lightning speed in sector 1 there as he goes for a move, and took me by surprise, to be honest, because I didn't think he was going to be that quick through sector 1 and be right on us on lap 12. But he is, and he's through on the left-hand side. We squeeze him. We both got DRS open. We're going to move back to the racing line. Ricciardo, though, goes for the kamikaze dive bomb and makes some contact with Drugovich. He's slow. We switch back him from right to left on the outside now to the next section, and we re-overtake him for P7. But now, I think, as we look to make a pit stop soon, we've got to try and go and overtake Drugovich, because he's now too slow for us with the tyre where he's got. So on the next lap, we go through DRS open. He doesn't make it too easy for me, because he's still very much there, and I don't want to hold him up by squeezing him too much. So he fights me a little bit, because I'm sure he wants to keep the position, but doesn't need to worry though, because I will let him by again after the first round of pit stops, if that is what is going to be the best decision in terms of both of us keeping this kind of position. But at the moment, it's all the same then at the sharp end. You know, now they're making their pit stops, but it was still Verstappen from Russell to Hamilton, Leclerc, Sainz, myself now on P6, Drugovich P7. Ricciardo has already come in then on lap 12, actually, as I made that move on lap 13. He actually came in on the previous lap, so this is us covering off Ricciardo. Drugovich carries on for another lap, but I'm hoping we can stay ahead of the Australian when we come out. Let's see, 1 lap difference. Ricciardo on the fresh, hard compound, us on some worn mediums, but obviously the warm-up of the hard tyre is very difficult, so let's see as we make the... it's an error. There's an error. Look at that front left. There was a bit of a slow pit stop there on the front left. It was an optimal turn-in, but let's see where we are. Where is Ricciardo? Nowhere to be seen, actually. So we will stay ahead of Rick Bobby. Gasly ahead of us, who's jumped us. He's on a 2-stop, remember. Lap 15 then. We're coming into turn 1, and these guys have just come out their pit lane. Drogovic, Lando Norris, and Sergio Perez. So all 3 of them have jumped us in this pit stop phase, but that's no issue right now because at the moment my tyres are warm. They've just come out the pit lane, so they're freezing cold, and we go waltzing round the outside of a Red Bull car. Such is the difference when your tyres are warm or cold, and it's like taking candy from a baby there of the Red Bull car. And now we'll go on with plenty of ERS in the tank. DRS, we will have to make the overtake on Norris to then have that gap and buffer between him and our teammate Drogovic. And once again then, if we make this overtake, we'll both be ahead of both McLarens. And here we go, using all of my ERS down this straight, overusing it a bit, but it's worth it to get ahead of the McLaren. We're going to take it nice and easy, a bit wide on exit on purpose to squeeze the McLaren out, and we're back up into P9 now. Drogovic P8. So Schumacher has jumped us. Gasly's ahead of us, but he's going to make a second pit stop. But Schumacher has actually genuinely jumped both of us. But to be honest, he's in a quicker car. The McLarens are as well, of course, but, you know, we're ahead of them, so we've got track position. Schumacher, I know I'm not going to catch him because he's got too much of a gap to me, and I'll have to overtake Drogovic now as well, whereas the McLaren was within distance of me overtaking him. So we'll have to accept that Schumacher's got us in this race, but P8 and 9 is, well, what will be P7 and 8, remember, when Gasly pits, is still going to be really, really solid. And lap 17 on to 18, nearly now 10 laps to go in this race. The cloud cover's coming in a bit. Lando looking to chase us, but he's locked up. He's made a mistake. And Perez is down the inside, so that helps us. That gives us breathing room to Perez and Norris in that fight. Bottas gets in the mixer, so these 3 fighting, that really helps us. But, oh, wow! Oh, what a dive bomb from McLaren. He was defending Bottas, but fancied trying to re-overtake Perez there and didn't quite pull it off, but still, what a move there. But we go back to our race and our situation. It is once again multi-21, and I will use Drogovic to pull me along with DRS. And to be honest, I said Schumacher's so much quicker than both our cars. We're actually keeping with Schumacher quite well. We're not gaining on him, but we aren't being lost by him. And behind me, as you saw there as I look behind me, Lando again sent one down the inside of Perez. So these 2 squabblings also helping us, because if they're busy fighting each other, they both can't catch up to me or Drogovic. And there goes Lando again on the inside of Sergio Perez. This time, 3rd time lucky, he will make the overtake, but Perez comes back at him though. Sorry, with this switch, they're now going to go side by side into sector 1, and this is exactly what we want to see, as they're now neck and neck. It's great squabbling for them, but it's not great overall because they've now lost 1.8 seconds to me in P8. This is wonderful. This is perfect. This is exactly what we need. We are sticking under Drogovic's wing by 3/10, and that 1.8 gap will give us the breathing room to now move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. And we're still here in P8 and P7. Gasly's made the pit stop, like I said, on that 2-stop. Again, these 2 are fighting. Perez holds strong for the P9, and Lando moves down to P10. Ricciardo just out the points in P11 there. Last race's race winner, Alonso. The 2 Alpines have had a shocker. They've just been stuck in traffic the whole race, and they've just not had the pace. Verstappen will go on to dominate and win this Grand Prix, but the whole time he's had the 2 silver arrows lurking like 2 silver sharks. Russell ahead of Hamilton after that mistake Lewis made on lap 1. Leclerc will finish P4 to limit the damage from Verstappen's win there, and here we are on the last lap. And we've got 1.6 seconds to Perez, because just there again, Perez was too busy fighting and defending Norris. And look ahead, 2.7 to Mick Schumacher. That's not bad. We've only lost 1 second to a Haas over the course of this race distance. And that's not even me. That's my AI teammate who's lost only 1 second to the Haas. And then we've been behind him the whole step of the way, multi-21 the whole way, and I'm happy to finish behind him because it means it's a solid P7 and 8 finish. It's a double points finish. I think the second only one in this entire season, maybe, because we did this at Imola. And I don't think we've done it again, because every time I finished in the points, I don't think Drogovic has. And obviously when Drogovic got the podium, I DNF'd. So that might be our second only one.
That's it then for another magnificent United States Grand Prix, and they have hung on to take a sublime victory here today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I really feel the track layout, combined with the track temperatures we saw today, suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable up there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they've secured here.
It's a win that Max Verstappen desperately needed after the 0 points he got at Japan, and to have Leclerc, 3 places back, not just 1 place back, because of the 2 Mercedes performing very well. That's perfect for him. I think he will take the lead, retake the lead of the championship. So, like I said, even though Mercedes have clearly now arrived and, into season 2, they're definitely going to be a threat for the Drivers' Championship, both of them. This season, it is still just Verstappen v Leclerc, because they keep swapping places for the standings, and it's really great. I really hope that, neither of them has a disaster and the other one prospers in the last 3 races, because if it keeps going like this now, we're gonna have an actual, genuine, proper, dramatic title decider between Verstappen and Leclerc as 2 AI drivers. But that is so good to see. P7 and 8 for us, points finish. Lando only gets 1 point, Ricciardo no points, so that means we will re-overtake McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. It's the only time you're ever going to probably see me happy to do multi-21, car 2 ahead of car 1, because that was the only way I was going to get Drogovic to score points today. And to be fair to him, actually, you've got to give him credit. In clean air, like I said, he didn't lose time to Schumacher that much, and I was actually pushing somewhat to keep up with him. I could have maybe passed him earlier in the stint, but at the end of the race, my tyres were actually so worn out on the hards that I actually was pushing and still not gaining enough to maybe make a last lap lunge on the last lap of the Grand Prix to get the P7 for myself. So in the end of it, he actually did very, very well, and we've done the business for the team, and we're back ahead of McLaren. So a very strategic race this time out in this episode. If you guys did enjoy, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and the next time we go to Mexico, like Monza, maybe some low wings could allow our team to have a lot of fun out there. Till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.